Welcome you to the Enforcement Committee session of the Medical Board of California. Today is January 26, 2017, and the time is 2:20 p.m. I'm Dr. Felix Yip, Chair of the committee. I would like to ask all of us to please turn our cell phone to silent mode. For the committee members, please make sure they're off the table so we can avoid feedback noise. You may notice committee members accessing laptops during the meeting. They are using the laptop solely for the purpose of accessing the committee meeting material that are in the electronic format. This is an official business meeting of the Medical Board of California, and as such, disruption of the committee's business will not be tolerated. We have a designated time on the agenda for public comment, and we'll be asking for public comment on each agenda item. I ask that you be respectful of the need to conduct the committee's business. Should anyone disrupt the meeting, I will ask that person to conduct himself or herself in such a manner that permits the committee to transact the business. The committee welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it is the committee's intent to ask for public comments prior to the committee taking action on any agenda item. If for some reason I forget to ask for public comment on the agenda item and you wish to speak on that item, please raise your hand or come forward and you'll be recognized. I would like to request all speakers complete a presenter slip so I can call you by name at the appropriate time, and the record of this meeting can be full and complete. However, this is voluntary. Please give the speaker slips to Ms. Tove. Ms. Tove, please identify yourself for the audience. That's kind of far away. This meeting will be available via telephone conference. Individuals listening to the meeting will have an opportunity to provide public comment and will be assisted by a moderator who will be facilitating the conference process. For those members of the public participating via telephone conference, please wait until the moderator has introduced you before you make your comments. To request to make a comment during the public comment period, press star 1. You will hear a tone indicating you are in queue for the comment. If you change your mind and do not want to make a comment, press the pound sign. Please remember to mute the volume on your screen to avoid feedback. Assistance available throughout the teleconference meeting. To request a specialist, press star 0. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes per agenda items. However, during agenda item 2, public comments on items not on the agenda, the committee has limited the public comment period for individuals on the telephone conference and those present here today for 20 minutes. Therefore, after 20 minutes, no further comments will be accepted. During public comment on any other agenda item, 10 minutes will be allowed for comments from individuals on the teleconference line and those in the audience. After 10 minutes, no further comments will be accepted. Staff from the board's business service office will be assisting me with receiving the public comments via telephone conference during this meeting. I would like to remind all speakers to please stay on topic and keep your comment to 3 minutes or less. I would like to call this meeting to order and have Ms. Tu please call the roll.
Dr. Bolot?
Present.
Judge Feinstein?
Present.
Dr. Levine?
Present.
Dr. Lewis?
Present.
Ms. Wright?
Present.
Dr. Yip?
Present.
Thank you.
And I would like to welcome the 4 new members of the committee, and 2 of them are public members. Thank you. Moving agenda item 2, public comments on items not on the agenda. Do I have any speaker slips? I see no speaker slip items not on the agenda. Are there comments on the phone? If no, if not, okay, let's move to agenda item 3, approval of minutes from the July 28, 2016 meeting.
I move to approve those minutes.
Second.
There is a tiny mistake on page 37, the 3rd paragraph. Dr. Bowler, what the goal was with this new solution, maybe there's a typo. So, I think
Third paragraph down.
Ms. Dell will correct that for us.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Second? Okay, great.
With the correction.
Great. Are there any public comments from those in the audience? Any comments from those on the phone?
No comment from the phone.
Ms. Tu, please call the roll.
Dr. Bolat? Aye. Judge Feinstein?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Wright? Aye. Dr. Yip?
Aye.
Thank you.
Minutes approved. We'll now move on to agenda item 4. Ms. Delp will provide an enforcement program update.
Good afternoon, members. At the conclusion of 2016, the board provided 6 training sessions to the Office of Administrative Hearing, fulfilling its strategic objective to provide training to the administrative law judges. According to Government Code Section 11371, the administrative law judges shall have medical training as recommended by the Medical Board of California and approved by the Director of the Office of Administrative Hearing. On February 8th, Executive Director Kirchmeier and I will be meeting with executives from the Office of Administrative Hearing to discuss not only new training topics, but other enforcement-related matters, to include a discussion and dissemination of the 12th edition of the Medical Board's Manual Model of Disciplinary Orders and Disciplinary Guidelines, which were adopted by the Office of Administrative Law and took effect on January 5th, 2017. Additionally, next month, board staff will be conducting a video conference with health quality enforcement staff from the Office of the Attorney General to go over the guideline revisions. In previous updates, I have reported that the Central Complaint Unit's complaint initiation timeframe has exceeded the mandated 10 days to open a complaint. I am pleased to report that the average timeframe to initiate a new complaint is now 6 days. Intake staff in the Central Complaint Unit have done an outstanding job working to decrease the average number of days and continues to remain in compliance with Business and Professions Code Section 129. During the discussion of the Sunset Report at the October board meeting, board members commented that the Central Complaint Unit's response letters are to some extent impersonal and too technical in nature, and instructed board staff to review and evaluate the content of those letters. On January 4, 2017, Enforcement Chair Dr. Yip visited with board staff to review the response letters provided to consumers. It was a very productive meeting, and several letters have been modified. Dr. Yip will share more about his visit with staff in a few minutes. Recently, the Board of Registered Nursing was audited by the Bureau of State Audits, and the audit findings recommended several processing improvements to the way complaints are handled. Enforcement managers were provided a copy of this audit and were asked to determine if there are any changes that need to be made or developed to enhance how business is currently being conducted in the enforcement program. In a couple of weeks, I'll be meeting with the managers to hear their input and develop any plans of action to implement new ideas or modify current processing methods that will improve the enforcement processes and consumer satisfaction. As demonstrated this last year, improvements have been made in the probation unit, and I'm confident that further improvements within other enforcement programs will transpire throughout the year. Lastly, at the July 2016 board meeting, Executive Director Kirchmeier gave an update on the strategies identified to expedite cases where an interim suspension order should be sought. During this update, Ms. Kirchmeier stated that some of the 14 improvements or policy changes identified have been implemented, while staff was in the progress of completing the rest. I anticipate at the next committee meeting that the remaining improvement policy changes will be implemented or completed, and a full report of the ISO project will be provided to members. Additionally, members asked for an update regarding the prohibited practice condition of probation, specifically seeking information as to the types of restrictions and whether probationers are complying. This update will be provided at the next committee meeting. Thank you, and that concludes my enforcement update.
Thank you, Ms. Delp. Any questions, comments from the members?
No.
Actually, for the members, tomorrow meeting, item 11B is a very good comprehensive write-up from Ms. Delp. So good breakfast meeting tomorrow. So, breakfast reading. So, any public comments from those in the audience? Any comments from those on the phone?
No comments from the telephone.
Okay, moving to agenda item 5, Ms. Delp will now provide an update on the expert reviewers training and recruitment plan.
At the July 2016 board meeting, I presented an expert reviewer recruitment plan. The plan consists of 3 phases, and each phase involves tasks to enhance the board's recruitment of physicians into the expert reviewer program. Phase 1 included enhancements to the board's website, enhancements to the board's newsletter, the development of a recruitment letter, and the creation of an expert reviewer brochure. Except for a couple of the website improvements, all other tasks have been completed. The recommendations to interchange the graphic located on the board's homepage that advertises the expert reviewer program, as well as the recommendation to add a graphic to the physician and surgeon link found under the licensee tab, are currently in progress. The board's information systems branch reported that these 2 tasks will be completed by mid-February. Please turn your attention to agenda item 5 on page ENF 51, the expert reviewer brochure, and I also handed you the actual one a few minutes ago. It's on your front of you. This newly developed brochure contains entertaining graphics and is informative. It provides the key requirements to become an expert, the qualities that exemplify a good expert, and identifies what responsibilities the board expects from the experts. The brochure also highlights quotes from actual physicians that are experts for the board. This brochure will be disseminated at recruitment events, and I'm very pleased with the creation of the pamphlet. And we have actually used it at several events already. I would like to personally thank staff from the Expert Reviewer Program, the board's Public Affairs Office, the department's Office of Publications, Design, and Editing, and the physicians who provided quotes about their experiences as experts for their help in putting together this brochure. It was truly a team effort, and I think the finished product is phenomenal. Analytics were added to the summer newsletter and the graphic on the board's website to track how many individuals were directed to the board's website, Expert Reviewer homepage. From July 1, 2016 to January 24, 2017, the homepage was reviewed a total of 764 times. Going forward, all newsletters will have an analytic embedded so the board can continue to monitor the volume of views directed to the Expert Reviewer program page. So far, between July through December of 2016, a total of 47 new experts have joined the program, and each quarter, board staff sends out an announcement to staff in the Health Quality Enforcement section and the Health Quality Investigation unit, informing them of new experts. The announcements list the physician's specialty and whether the expert has attended the board's expert reviewer training. The purpose of this notice is to broadcast the new experts to those that utilize them. It's an easier means of finding a new expert and can assist with the investigative process rather than having to search through the board's database. The database is still available, but currently does not have a mechanism to highlight new participants that have joined the program. Phase 2 of the recruitment plan is underway, which includes tasks such as an advertisement of the program in external newsletters and magazines, and giving presentations about the program at hospital staff meetings, CME activities, and special conferences. On January 13, 2017, staff from the Central Complaint Unit and I attended the Essentials of Primary Care Psychiatry CME conference in Sacramento. We spoke to approximately 12 to 15 physicians about the Expert Reviewer and Central Complaints Unit's medical consultant programs, and we anticipate several will sign up to participate in either or both of the programs. In fact, one physician contacted me right after the event and is interested in being an expert that conducts neuropsychological and psychological assessments for the board. Regarding expert reviewer training, during 2016, the board conducted 3 training sessions. After each session, board staff made substantial improvements. For example, a segment about the overall enforcement process was added, and presentations that overlapped and provided redundant information were edited out. At the last training held in November, Dr. Bullot attended and provided opening remarks to the attendees, and perhaps she can share some thoughts in a few minutes. The 3 trainings focused on getting experts currently enrolled in the program to attend. The total participation at all sessions was 134 experts, with 105 being allopathic doctors, and the remaining experts were either podiatrists, osteopathic physicians, or midwives. Board staff recognizes attendance has been low, and to assess the reasons why, a survey will be sent out to experts in the program asking for their input to increase turnout. Training has been conducted on the weekends, so one item being considered is to have training during the weekday. Out of the 1,100 experts in the program, 274 have attended a board training. The training is really worthwhile as seen by the feedback that the board receives from attendees. For example, one participant sent an email that stated, "I want to send a brief personal note expressing my appreciation for the outstanding expert reviewer session. The professionalism of the course, organization, and outstanding content was impressive. I've been writing reviews for around 10 years, and it was extremely helpful to gain better insight into the process. What is most gratifying is to see firsthand that bright and talented people are managing the state review process with wisdom and integrity. I cannot express the relief I see among doctors when I reassure them how well the medical board functions." With that, the program's focus will not only be to increase the number of experts into the program, but make concerted efforts to increase attendance at the training sessions. Thank you, and that concludes my update.
Thank you. That's a great update. Any question, comments
do.
from members? Dr. Lewis.
Me first? Oh, good, thank you. Ms. Delp, I have a question when I look at the brochure, and it's about compensation. How long has these compensation rates been in effect, number one? And do you find that it's a deterrent to people entering the program or staying with the program, and you find a dropout rate? Because I look at the compensation and it's not.
Well, I've been with the board about 18 months, and
I know,
that I think that compensation's been quite some time.
Yes.
And as far as, I just don't think it does help entice people to come into the program. I don't have anything to say that it is those that are in it are dropping out for that, but I don't have anything. I believe it's not an encouragement to
Okay,
go into the
along
program.
those lines, I would recommend, and it may be in statute, it may be with DCA, that you look at the compensation rates, because when you take the taxes out, they're working for $75 an hour.
Right.
And
And we realize that, and
you're not going
we,
to find people leaving their practice and especially people at high specialties, subspecialties. I raise it. I'm surprised,
and I think
What
Ms.
was that?
Kirchmeier has history on what's been done to increase it, but with that, I know we really try to stress it's more about the principle than the payment.
Yes, I know. I mean, yeah, I get that. Here's practical. This is practical.
So what I can say is that in order for us to move forward with increasing the compensation for the experts, we would have to put that through as a budget change proposal through the process. And we recently were able to get a budget change proposal that was approved to just basically fund what we were overspending, I should say. So that was recently approved last year. But to extend it and make it more is something that just is difficult to get through the whole process. So we can always put it forward. That can be something that we can put forward again in this next year and see if we can get a higher compensation rate. I think the other thing that we wanted to do is for those that attended the training, we wanted to increase their fees. And Dr. Levine knows she's had these discussions. And so we were going to increase their fee if they had actually gone through this training. So they got $50 an hour, whatever it was we had recommended at the time, to increase their pay for those that had attended, because it is so vital for them to attend. But it's definitely something I can take that back. We'll be coming up in March, putting forward concept papers for future budget change proposals, and that process is confidential, so it's not something that is open to public discussion. And so, but I definitely can put things forward to go forward and try to increase their compensation.
Just Feinstein?
Yes, thank you. Not on the compensation front, but just in terms of substance, are there particular specialties in which you lack sufficient expert reviewers?
Yeah.
And are we doing anything to try to recruit more expert reviewers from those specialties?
Yeah, so I'll let Christine talk about the recruitment, but on page, it'll be 11B1, actually, I believe, in your full board packet, are the list of individuals who were deficient in areas, those specialty areas where we're deficient in. And that's really, I think, where Ms. Delp and her team are targeting.
Right. In 11B, it gives a list of this expert reviewer program by specialty, the number of physicians. And it states a list where we need additional experts, and there's a following list of like psychiatry, dermatology, et cetera. And when we do our recruitment going out to conferences or CMEs, we're going to focus on those areas where we need additional experts. It's on page
There you go.
board
okay.
11B1.
We need experts. Okay,
One of the
thank you.
One of the strategy we talk about is to hopefully encourage some of those training into like a CME activity. At least the doctor came get like 8 hours free CME. So one of the hospitals we talk about in Southern, like Huntington Hospital, is actually very interested in doing that. And I work with staff to follow up on that. The other one we approach is probably Cedars-Sinai. If they can give us time for give a talk at grand rounds and then set a day to train the people who want to be trained that with CME, that would be helpful too. So, Ms. Wright.
Just for like context, so like an expert reviewer that I engage in a case for mine costs like $900 at minimum, sometimes as much as $1,500. So I'm just wondering what kind of, when you're advocating for higher rates for our expert reviewers, do you use comparable data, like saying in their subspecialty they could get this if they were doing a civil matter? And then what has been the reaction to that when you've pushed that forward?
I think it just hasn't moved forward. I'm trying to be very, very careful about how I talk about it, but it's just one of those issues that we can look at. We'll look at if we could absorb any. I don't think so because of where our budget is right now, with possibly increasing it and see where we get with the absorption. But when we've looked at it in the past, we've looked at increasing it like $50, $100, and then actually for I think it's neurologists that we've looked at to increase them even more, so where they were like getting like the $300 an hour, and then if they were testifying, increasing it to $400 an hour, because it's really the testimony sometimes that is the important part to pay for. So,
And not that the public interest, a public interest, of course, is paramount, but to convey that to a doctor that can go elsewhere and get more, I'm concerned about the cost.
yeah, and I think, and I'm going to ask Dr. Levine to back me up, because I know we've talked about this before. I think one of the things that we've talked about, and it's been with other members too, is that really an individual who is being an expert for the medical board is an individual that really wants to do their job to protect the public, and they're really taking on that role more as something as their way to pay back to the community. I don't think a lot of them are looking at it as a cash cow, obviously, but it's really, I think they're really tied in, going back to their calling. That's really their calling, to help out in that role for some. But that's not a reason not to compensate them appropriately.
Yeah, Dr. Levine, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, public service, and part of the Hippocratic Oath is I commit to contributing to the maintenance of the profession. And in many ways, service on the board, service as an expert reviewer is a very palpable way of contributing to the maintenance of the quality of care delivered by the profession. That being said, I do think that with our experience on the panels, the quality of the expert reviewer is probably the single most important thing in terms of
Yes.
public protection. And so I think we hopefully can make a strong case for using a differential pay rate to pay experts who actually spend the time attending the expert reviewer training. And that is CME approved, isn't it? The training, the expert reviewer training?
Yes, actually, for this last round, we gave 6 hours.
6 hours, yeah.
Of CME?
Which is another,
Up to
which
8
is
for-
another
yeah.
inducement, but signaling that the work they do, oftentimes a case, our ability to protect the public depends on the quality of the expert reviewer and their understanding of what their role is.
Right. And unfortunately, once we, for the board, once we've sent the case out, and if it comes back, we ask for them to put it in writing right away. So if we have an expert, when we send them out a packet, we give them this is what the report should look like, this is what we want you to do, try a sample report, here's what it is as we sign them up. But unfortunately, it's till that first report comes back that you see the quality of your expert. And so that's kind of obviously not a benefit to the board. That's why we want them to have that training actually before they would even sign up.
Great. Dr. Bowler?
Yes, I want to do 2 things. One, I want to just mention that I had spent a good decade being an expert reviewer, and I really, speaking to the giving back, I really enjoyed it, but not to be, but to discount the issue that in the same building or office, I had colleagues that might be being paid tremendous amounts of money. So it comes down to, where are you? And I think that part of, my mission when I was meeting with my legislators was to say, how can we leverage our academic institutions? And I think that's a real opportunity, to which I'm going to mention, I thought that the event that I attended back in November was really excellent. And I really appreciated the staff from our medical board being there and providing really outstanding, clear information. But what was even more striking were the conversations and the questions. And we had a broad range of different subspecialties, psychiatry. I think we had someone that was maternal fetal medicine, and everybody in between. And I thought it was very enriching. And I do like Dr. Levine's comment in the conversations regarding those additional benefits for attending. I think that's a great carrot, and I think the CME, for a lot of us, it was a great and pretty straightforward CME. Not straightforward because it was easy, but it really helped stimulate our thinking, and it was not too much. It was just about the right amount, so thank you.
Last question, please.
Oh, thank you. I just need to ask a follow-up question. And perhaps I'm not understanding something, but when I look at 11B, the attachment A, it lists the specialties, it lists the number of cases reviewed by experts, it lists the number of experts and how often they were utilized, and then the number of experts in a particular field. That wasn't quite what my question was, and perhaps I was inarticulate in asking it, but I'm trying to ascertain where we're lacking in experts.
So can you look at 11B1? That's actually the list that we've contacted our expert reviewer program. So it's before attachment A. It's in the narrative section. We have a list there of all of the specialties where we feel that we need more experts. These are the ones where when we get cases in these areas, these are the ones where we're needing experts because they either make our cases hold up because we don't have an expert because they're working on these other ones, or we are looking for somebody that's particular, maybe they have, because a lot of these that are specialties, they'll have conflicts because they'll know the individual, it's a well-known doctor, those kind of things. And so that's where most of it lies, where we need the increase in experts.
Understood. Thank you.
Did that answer it?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
And any public comments from those in the audience?
Oh.
Ms. Castro?
Good afternoon, Gloria Castro, Senior Assistant from HQE. I wanted to come up here and respond to the question that Dr. Lewis opened with, and that is with respect to the repayment schedule for expert reviewers. On the report writing, $150 is rarely balked at, I believe, from our perspective, by our experts who are reviewing and drafting reports. The board is very, very generous when they ask for more hours. Initially, I think most of them will get an X amount of hours, and if they go beyond, they have to come back to the investigator and request more hours. And those are usually approved. It's a passive activity that is undertaken in their free time outside of their practice. But where the rubber hits the road is when there is testimony. This case is not going to settle. We are going to hearing. And that is where the testimony rate of $200 really hits home. And the reason is we're asking our experts to take a busy day out of their schedule, cancel surgeries, do whatever needs to be done to appear at the Office of Administrative Hearings, for which they're compensated $200 an hour in testimony, and of course they get the per diem and the hotel and all that covered. But they are there wearing the white hats with us to help explain standard of care in a very contentious environment, and usually one that involves battle of the experts, where the defense may have come in with, you know, the experts being paid $1,500 an hour and staying at the Ritz-Carlton, and meanwhile our expert is getting paid $200 and staying at the Homewood Suites. And they do come to those hearings willingly and able, and it is very powerful when our own DAGs do ask the experts on the other side how much they're getting paid. And it's, you know, very obvious that they're there for the good reasons. However, I will say this, that because the Office of Administrative Hearings is not in an advocacy position, they're judges, right? And they are maintaining the due process. Due process can mean that respondents will settle their cases at the last minute. At the last minute, meaning that doctor, who is a surgeon, is not going to be able to recover that Monday of surgeries. They're just going to be out a whole day of work. And that's where it matters. And there's really nothing that we can do. Due process is due process, and some of our DAGs say, no, take it or leave it, this is my deal, drop dead date, month ahead of time. But OAH does ask, as soon as my DAGs show up to Office of Administrative Hearings, is, have you discussed settlement? And of course we have. And if there's even anything giving the ALJ an inkling that it could settle that day and we could prevent the massive use of public resources in a hearing that we don't need to have, they will bring in the settlement judge, and we may even settle on the, quote, courthouse steps. Where does that leave our expert? High and dry. Our contract with experts can be refined to explain cancellation policies on our experts, and I would strenuously suggest that that may be a place where you look at not necessarily the report writing of $150, but rather the $200 per hour testimony fee, but more importantly, the cancellation. Because that's where our experts, who are very good, and they've been with the case for 3 years at a time, maybe by the time that it goes to hearing, it could be a significant amount of time. They spend time with my DAGs, and they've put in a lot of commitment. They will come in and testify. They're there under subpoena. But my concern is that they may never come back. And therefore, all this time and energy that we put into a great expert, he or she is left with a bad taste in their mouth. And they may think twice before they take another call from Ms. Getzinger asking them to review another case. So for retention purposes, please look at the cancellation. If we're canceling less than 5 days before the testimony date, we may have to think about what to do. DOJ does have a cancellation, and we do pay our experts. Yes, Dr. Levine?
So is what you're saying, if it's canceled, if this is settled on the courthouse steps, the expert isn't paid at all?
No, they're not testifying.
Well,
they're not testifying.
Well, we'll certainly take it into consideration. So thank you for the comment. Oh, Kim's going to make a comment? No, okay. Are there any comments from those on the phone?
I did just want to clarify that they're paid for the work that they actually did, but not for that if it's canceled on a Friday, they're not paid for that Monday day, which is an issue.
Or if it's canceled Monday morning before they actually get to
Monday morning.
testify,
That's right.
they're not paid,
That's right.
even though they've lost a day of work.
Right.
It seems to me that should be remediable.
Kim?
So this is actually through contract with these individuals. So when you sign up for a contract through the contract process, you only paid for the work that you perform. So if they weren't there and if they were there, we'd pay for their travel, obviously, because they had traveled there and they didn't know, but we would not pay them for the day because they did not perform any work during that day. We've worked with legal counsel on this. We've taken it up through the chains, and that's the way the contract works.
I guess it's no surprise we have a retention problem.
I'm not sure we open a can of worm, but probably sometime we should do a survey of existing expert, departing expert, and also people come to review and see what they think would be more valuable to them. What the problem we have, like it's a good point that we bring up, retention is a problem too. So, Dr. Bola?
I just want to make two comments. The first one is you were really happy when the settlement occurred, so you weren't on the witness stand. That was very challenging. But the other piece is that the cancellation, I would be in support of looking at what might be done. It's kind of like the work RVU for physician payment. Unless it's done, you don't get paid. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from those on the phone?
No comments from the telephone.
Thank you. Move to item number 6. Ms. Romero will give a presentation on the Central Complaint Unit's complaint handling process.
Good afternoon. Let me get Good afternoon, members. My name is Paulette Romero. I'm the Enforcement Program Manager that is over the Central Complaint Unit. So we're going to talk today about the complaint unit process. So the most important thing about the complaint unit is the mandated priorities. So in 2003, Section 2220.05 was added to mandate certain priorities for the board when we were investigating cases. So you see the first one is gross negligence, incompetence, or repeated negligent acts involving patient death. We have drug and alcohol abuse by physicians involving patient death. Repeated acts of clearly excessive prescribing of controlled substances. The next one, the repeated acts of clearly excessive recommending of cannabis to patients for medical purposes, is actually new. That was just included last January 2016. One of the older ones, the original ones, was sexual misconduct with one or more patients. Next is practicing medicine while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And then our most recent one is the last one, the repeated acts of clearly excessive prescribing, furnishing, administering psychotropic medications to minor patients without a good faith exam. That resulted from the concern there was with psychotropic medications being prescribed to foster children. So that was just added actually this month. So next on the slides is just a quick overview of our complaint review process. I'm not going to go through each of the boxes there because we're going to go over them in more detail throughout the presentation. But you'll just see, we're receiving them, we're reviewing them, and determining whether or not they're going to be closed or referred. So we'll go over those individually. So because of those mandated priorities, back in 2003, the unit was when back then we were just assigned areas, geographical areas to process cases in. But in 2003, when we got the mandated priorities, the unit was split in pretty much two, either analysts processing complaints alleging quality of care or analysts processing complaints alleging more technical violations. Physician conduct is what we call it. So failure to provide medical records, failure to timely sign a death certificate, corporate practice of medicine cases. So we've had those separated out now. So when we're getting complaints into the complaint unit, what we are doing is we're receiving them from all different types of sources. They're coming from the public, from patients who believe that they received negligent treatment, patients' family members, other licensees who maybe have treated a patient and believe that the individual before them might have been negligent. We're getting mandated reports from the insurance companies pursuant to 801, peer review hospitals peer review pursuant to 805, court clerks. We are getting new adverse event reporting forms. We're getting them from other government agencies, managed healthcare services, public health. They're all forwarding information to us as well. On top of, we do get anonymous complaints. We're getting a lot of anonymous complaints now. Those are coming from other physicians. They are concerned with maybe a colleague. They're coming from individuals within offices. There's a lot of different types that are, you can tell by the way that they're being written that those are where the anonymous ones are coming, in addition to other public ones who could be patients that maybe don't want to become involved, but want us to make situations aware for us. So the first thing we're doing when we get the complaints in, they are being assigned to they're being given to individuals that are what we call our intake staff. They are processing the complaints. They're putting them into the system for us so that we have a control number to reference. We can determine where the case is coming from, what geographical area it's occurring in, and what complaint type it is. So we're looking to see if it's meeting those mandated priorities that were set forth in the Business and Professions Code, and if so, it's going to certain analysts. So there's analysts that are handling quality of care complaints to ensure that they are looking at it as quickly as possible, those high priority complaints, the patient death or serious bodily injury. They are looking to see if we have an analyst who specifically processes sexual misconduct complaints, physician impairment complaints. We have another individual that is only reviewing excessive prescribing complaints, whether it be controlled substances or the psychotropic medications to the minor patients. We have an individual who only looks at adverse events. Our urgent analyst is what we call her. She's the only individual who's looking at complaints that are filed against physicians who are currently on probation. That way those are processed at a faster rate, and they'll be able to focus more on those high priority cases. So those intake analysts are reviewing those complaints. They are determining which analyst that the complaint is going to be assigned to, and then they're distributed to them based on the case type and then the geographical area if need be. So once the complaints, it's determined which of the analysts the complaint is being referred to, that analyst is going to review it to determine whether or not the allegations are actually within the board's jurisdiction. So once it's determined that they are in the jurisdiction, the first step that they're going to do is contact the patient for a authorization for release of medical records form. We have to have that medical release in order for us to proceed. So we're getting that from the patient, we're getting that from the minor patient's parent or guardian, we are getting it from the next of kin of a deceased patient. We were very fortunate that the law just passed this month that we are able to now request medical records from facilities if there was a patient death involved, and we are able to get the records from them now if we've made reasonable efforts to obtain the release from the next of kin, but we're unsuccessful. We could previously do it, request the records from doctors, but a lot of the times treatment was occurring at hospitals, and we weren't able to get the medical records from there. So we're now able to do that, and that's a big help. Business and Professions Code 2220.08 requires that we contact the physician and summarize the complaint allegations and give them an opportunity to respond. So the analysts are doing that as well. Once they gather all of that information, they are hopefully getting that response back from the physician. They are getting medical records from the physician, from facilities, from subsequent treating physicians. They are determining whether or not, for the quality of care cases, those are going to go to a medical consultant for an upfront expert review. For the cases that have or maybe a technical violation. So if the complaint is that a patient didn't get a copy of their medical records, our intent there is to ensure that the patient is getting their medical records. Check with the physician why they didn't provide the records timely, resolve that issue. If a death certificate isn't being signed, why wasn't it signed? Make sure it gets signed so that the patient's family can move on. We'll talk a little bit more about where the other high priority cases are going. So right there we have the medical consultant review up front. 2220.08 requires that we have those quality of care complaints alleging negligence reviewed by a medical consultant who's within the same specialty as that subject physician, to ensure that that it's reviewed by them. We are able to refer a complaint straight to investigation if it meets the criteria. So if that physician already has a complaint that's currently under investigation, or if an accusation has been filed against them, we are able to bypass that upfront expert or consultant review and send it straight to one of the field offices. You just heard a little bit about the consultant program, or the expert program, but this is the actual, slightly different. This is the CCU medical consultant program criteria. So those physicians, current valid license, active practice, or retired within 3 years, specialty certification, no complaints on file, no malpractice cases, and peer review or other experiences desired. These are the triage physicians. These are not the experts that are testifying. These physicians are reviewing the complaints to determine whether or not they see evidence they believe warrants further investigation. So that's what they are looking at when they are reviewing a case file. So at the end, what we have, the complaint review process, possible CCU outcomes are, we've closed the case because we don't have sufficient evidence to pursue the matter. If the consultant or the analyst maybe sees that a complaint requires going straight to investigation, we can also refer them for formal investigation. If we've found that there is a technical violation of the law or another action that results in that's considered a violation of the law, we can also recommend referral to our citation and fine program for the issuance of the cite and fine. I think I skipped you. So BMP section 125.9 is what authorizes us to issue citations and fines. We also use this for orders of abatement. Sometimes we have difficulty getting medical records from a physician or a facility. So we make all of our attempts to get the records from them. If we are unsuccessful in receiving them within the required time frame, we can refer to our citation program at that time as well. The most important thing is the order of abatement, ensuring that we can get those medical records to pursue the complaint review process. We will make sure we get the records back, but at the same time, we're still issuing that fine for not providing the medical records timely. We may also send them to, send a case to cite and fine if we are having, if there was an issue. Maybe this is multiple times that we've had a delay in signing a death certificate. There could be a records. We have a consultant who's determined that after their review of a complaint, they believe that that physician is not maintaining medical records accurately, so they could recommend a citation for that as well. So we could be issuing the citations for those instances. This is just a little bit of information about what a citation should consist of. So we just make sure that we have it in writing. We are detailing what the violations are, what part of the Business and Professions Code or the Health and Safety Code is being violated, what the order of abatement, what we are asking the individuals to do in the citation, what's the expectation, the time frame for them to resolve the matter. They have an opportunity for an informal conference if they choose to. Myself, Ms. Delper, Ms. Houston would sit in on those and resolve those matters. Complaint statistics for last fiscal year. So you can see we receive a lot, over 8,600 in the complaint unit were received last fiscal year. We closed more than that. That was because we were closing some from the prior year also, so they do a lot in there. We referred over 1,600 to investigation, and we issued 55 citations and fines. The average number of days at this time was 146 days. As of June 6th, or January 6th, I'm sorry, we are now at 138 days. So we are going in the right direction with the complaint processing timeframes. And Dr. Lewis.
Dr. Lewis.
Oh, yes. The slide before that?
Yes.
Out of the 1,600 referred to investigation, how many actually come before the board for review in a year? What percentage of that?
Ooh, it's a small one. Kim, do you have this?
It's very small, isn't it? But what is it?
400.
It's always about 400 actually come before us for
Correct.
final approval, right?
Yes.
So out of 8,600 complaints, we see about 400. Very
Yes.
small. Okay, thank you.
Any other question, Dr. Boland?
Yes, thank you for this information. I'd be interested to know a little bit more about your CCU triage physicians, because that's another group of experts. In fact, I learned about them at that November meeting when someone was both a CCU triage person and also an expert reviewer, who they are. Also, I suspect you might have some lack of certain specialties.
Yes.
And so if you could speak to that, and then I have one more question after that.
Okay, yes, I actually checked with our medical consultant analyst before I came, and she let me know we have about 230 medical consultants right now working for the complaint unit that are active. She said that they're in need of neurosurgeons, gastroenterologists, and nephrologists. That is where they're having some difficulty. A lot of our complaints go to the general internal medicine, family medicine emergency room. We have a lot of those, but those three we have a shortage of, and they're working to recruit for those individuals.
And do those individuals get paid, and if they paid hourly?
Yes, they get paid as well.
Same 150?
No, they get 75 an hour.
Okay, even lower. Okay.
Yes, they're not testifying.
They're not testifying.
Correct. Are
they writing reports?
Yes, they're doing memos.
I see. All right. The next question, I guess, with those numbers, how much, there's a difference between the 9,000 because that was a carryover.
Yes.
So I don't know if that carryover is always that delta between the 9,001 and the 8,679, but let's just assume for a moment it's 8,679 and 400 come to us. In terms of if you were to put a map up and you were to say, let's see where these complaints are coming from, are you able to provide something to let us look at where the health professional shortages areas are and where they're not, hospital versus non-hospital, and who may be the physicians, what the physician's specialty or the nature? It'd be kind of interesting for I can speak for myself. I don't know if I can't speak on behalf of my other colleagues, but to see exactly what this looks like, I think that would be very interesting.
Like the geographical or?
The geography, the health professional shortage areas, because you can do that by census tracker zip code, which ones where they fall, and then where if these are, what percentage is hospital versus non-hospital, and who are these doctors, what's their subspecialty or their primary care? That would be good to see.
Yeah, we can obtain data on the source of complaints, on the geographical location of where the incidents are occurring. I don't know if we could get anything on on the specific individuals who are filing
it's
them.
Anonymous.
Yeah, I wouldn't. A lot of them are anonymous. A lot of them are duplicate. I wouldn't want to speak for our information systems branch and say, yeah, they can run that report for us, because I don't know for sure. But the complainant like I said, the sources we could get, just maybe not drilled down as specifically as you're requesting.
Right, and then I did want to hear that we could put the type of complaint. You must have a basket.
Oh yes, that's one of the options in our database as well as what complaint types. Yes.
Thank you very much.
How many of the medical are full-time and part-time? I believe some of those are full-time, right?
The medical consultants? They're all contracted consultants that we contact them as we need them.
They're not in-house.
No, we have no in-house anymore.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry.
QIUs.
Yeah, Kim's referencing the medical consultants that are state employees in the HQIU district offices. They're state employees that are there, but ours are contracted, and we contact them to ship cases to them as needed.
Right, thank you. Are there any public comments from those in the audience?
Thank you. Julie D'Angelo Felmuth from the Center for Public Interest Law. On your slide 6-12, you have possible CCU outcomes. Close case, refer for formal investigation, issue citation, and fine. Isn't there now a fourth one as well, which would be to refer it to your complaint, your non-sworn complaint unit?
That's still considered referring to investigation.
So it's not, oh, it is? Okay.
Investigators, they're just non-sworn.
Okay. Thank you.
And any comments from those on the phone?
No comments from the telephone.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Romero.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help. Let's move on. Agenda item 7, Ms. Delp will provide an update regarding the probation unit's performance measurement.
Okay. At the July 2016 board meeting, Enforcement Program Manager Susan Houston and I gave a presentation on the disciplinary actions taken for violations of probation and the timeframes it takes for staff to initiate and complete an action. Following the presentation, Enforcement Committee members asked what metrics are in place to ensure the probation unit is complying with the timeframes presented. The committee was informed that the Department of Consumer Affairs implemented performance measures 7 and 8 in July of 2016, that boards and bureaus must report to the department to ensure enforcement probation goals and targets are being met, and to ensure accountability of the work that's being performed. The newly implemented measures are now being used by the board to determine if the timeframe goals to initiate and complete an action are being met. Performance Measure 7 tracks the initial contact cycle time, the average number of days from when the date the probation inspector is assigned to a probation case to the date the inspector first makes contact with the probationer. The department deferred the authority to establish what this target baseline would be to the boards and bureaus. Medical board management set a target metric of 25 days. After the disciplinary order is adopted, the probation case must be assigned, and the probation inspector must make first contact with the probationer within this target range. I'm happy to report that the probation unit is meeting this target, averaging 5 days. Performance Measure 8 tracks the violation cycle time, the average number of days from when an inspector confirms or supports with evidence that a violation of a term and condition of probation may have occurred, to when management has provided approval for the appropriate action to be taken for the violation of probation. Again, the department deferred the authority to the boards and bureaus to establish what this target baseline would be, and the medical board management set a target metric of 10 days. Agenda item 7 demonstrates the board's efforts to meet Performance Measure 8. The first page shows the total number of probation violations that have occurred during January 1, 2016 through December 31, 2016. And as you can see, the biological fluid testing condition of probation is violated the most by probationers. The second highest violation is the other category, which involves violations such as non-practice for a period of 2 years, controlled substance log not properly maintained, and general probation requirements. These violations were grouped together because they do not occur often enough for the volume to be reported as a separate violation category. The third highest violation is not complying with either billing, practice, or worksite monitor conditions. The fourth highest violation is not submitting timely quarterly declarations and so forth, with violations related to the clinical training program, maintaining a current valid license, and probation monitoring costs for conditions of probation. The second page, labeled ENF 7.2, is a breakdown of violations regarding the biological fluid testing condition of probation. A probationer is in violation of probation if he or she fails to take a test when required, fails to call in daily to see if required to test, has a positive test, or fails to enroll into the biological fluid testing program. As you can see, failing to test when required is the top violation within this condition of probation. Page ENF 7.3 is a breakdown of the three monitoring conditions of probation. practice monitor, worksite monitor, and billing monitor. A cease practice order is issued when a probationer violates this condition for not having an approved monitor in place within 60 days after the effective date of the disciplinary order. It is important to note that the worksite monitor condition is from the Uniform Standards for Substance Abusing Licensees Terms and Conditions for Probation and is considered a minor violation of probation. Therefore, the issuance of a cease practice order is not the only action the board can impose for noncompliance with the worksite monitor condition. A few, but not all actions the board can take would be issuance of a citation and fine, order the licensee to undergo a clinical diagnostic evaluation, and or increase supervision of a licensee. Page ENF 74 is a breakdown of the clinical training program condition of probation. As you can see from the pie chart, most violations are a result of the probationer failing the clinical training assessment. The probationer cannot resume the practice of medicine until a final decision has been rendered and or an accusation or petition to revoke for probation and violation. Page ENF 75 is a chart that displays the top 5 board actions taken for the violations of probation conditions discussed on the previous pages. The highest action taken is issuance of a noncompliance letter. Second is a referral for a petition to revoke probation. Third is an issuance of a citation and fine. Fourth is issuance of cease practice order. And fifth is issuance of cease practice order and a petition to revoke generated at the same time. The average time to take on any of these violations is 10 calendar days. On January 5th, 2016, the performance measures were shared with Enforcement Chair Dr. Yip. Management engaged into productive discussions with Dr. Yip about ways to improve upon the timeframes. Board management and staff take violations of probation seriously, and although the board is meeting the target metric for PM08, management is committed to and is constantly evaluating ways to decrease this timeframe. That concludes my presentation. And do you have any questions?
Any question from the members? They must be happy with your report. Are there any public comments from those in the audience? Any from those on the phone? Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Depp. Let's move on. Agenda item 8, future agenda items. Any members have agenda items for the next Enforcement Committee meeting? Are there any public comments from those in the audience on the future agenda items? Any comments on the phone?
Do you have any comments on the line?
No comments from the phone.
Okay, great. We'll now move on agenda item 9, adjournment. I would like to, oh, she's smiling already. I would like to call for motion to adjourn the meeting.
I so move.
Second? Any? Second, great. Thank you.